Go to Geneva and speak to UNICEF's global spokesperson, Mr. James Elder. James, great to have you here with us on TRT World. Now, I hope you were listening to what our correspondent Nizar Sadawi was telling us out of Gaza. I had asked him, tell us about the plight of Palestinians, especially children living in the besieged enclave. And he quoted some figures, and certainly those figures are grim, to say the least. Hundreds of thousands of people are starving. There are increasing cases of hepatitis being reported within the besieged enclave, and people have resorted to eating weed since they cannot find anything else. Tell me, what are you hearing from your sources?
Well, again, I do the same thing. I speak to people in Gaza almost every day. It goes beyond an exhaustion now. Parents who have done somehow miraculously, and as they say, with luck, and children are still alive, at whatever day we are of this horror, they're just utterly exhausted. They don't have enough food. Rafah, as your correspondent spoke of, Rafah now, the idea that there could be an attack, an assault on Rafah. Rafah is a city of children, and it's a city of children under enormous stress. Even today, I was in touch with the family of a little girl, Shaima, who, when I last saw Shaima in early December, had her right arm and her right leg had been amputated. She was in hospital. She can't be in hospital now because it's not safe, and more injured children come every day. So take that one story, because your correspondent rightly shared the big numbers. But that one story of a little 8-year-old girl who's lost her right arm and her right leg, sheltering in the cold, in the wet, in the rain, in Rafah, with no support other than her very, very brave father. Disease is rife. We're looking at 90% of children having contracted one type of illness. Diarrhea, which obviously with a lack of water is lethal. Unfortunately, it is what we have warned about for a long time. Without a ceasefire, we can see just as many children killed through disease and a complete lack of medical support as from the bombs, the drones, the attacks.
James, have you seen something like this before?
No, look, I think it's always perilous to compare in a sense. I've just come back from Sudan. If you want to talk numbers, Sudan has the highest number of children displaced of any country on the planet. It's utterly heartbreaking what they're enduring. I was just 3 days ago on the front lines in Ukraine talking to children who have not seen a school for 4 years because of COVID, and now war, who spend hundreds of days underground. I've not seen anything, though, with this level of intensity. Again, if I speak to my own personal experience in Gaza, being in a hospital, and every time I would turn around would be another little boy or girl with the wounds of war. And that's now months ago. And as your correspondent rightly said, it's only gotten worse. So it's very hard to imagine the levels of malnutrition, the population density, the lack of water, and an ongoing bombardment. If there was a ceasefire, which we keep pleading for, we would still have a humanitarian crisis in Gaza because of what people have endured, because of the devastation to their homes, because of the lack of food and water and the ferocity of attacks. We have all of that, and we have ongoing attacks. So I hope that gives some sense of how I see it as something really quite extraordinary.
Okay, now, James, I don't want to put you in a position where you have to defend the organization that you work for, because I truly believe that the United Nations, UNICEF, and many other aid organizations working within Gaza are doing their utmost best to help alleviate the pain and sufferings of Palestinians. But according to many experts, what we are witnessing in Gaza right now is unprecedented. The humanitarian catastrophe is unprecedented. Let me ask you, do you think the international community's response when it comes to alleviating the pain and sufferings of the Palestinians is also unprecedented?
Well, I think international community, of course, includes many member states. I can only speak to my own organisation, and I know my colleagues on the ground. I know how we push every single day to get convoys across Gaza, and we get refused on many days. I know the water and the medicine I've seen distributed. I know we will say time and again, it's not enough. So I know the effort being put in. I know the bravery of colleagues. I know both my Palestinian colleagues and those colleagues from other countries doing everything they can to get water, medicine, protection. But they and I will be the first to tell you, given the restrictions, given the attacks, it's simply not enough, but not enough through a lack of trying, not enough through the voice that we've tried to raise from the Security Council to being on the ground. That does not still mean there is not an enormous amount of frustration and sadness, if you will, about not being able to do enough. When we talk about the numbers of children killed and the number of children under threat, any humanitarian should accept that not enough is being done.
James Elder, thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World, and on a personal level, thank you very much for the work that you and your organisation is doing in Gaza. Thanks a lot.